Okay, so here we are now at annuities. Annuities are a complicated and very useful type of investment to understand. If you've taken the life and or annuity insurance exam, some of this should be familiar. Annuities do work across the board very similarly, primarily in how they are invested is the difference. Because a fixed annuity is invested in the fixed account of the insurance company. They promise to make some fixed interest payment, some fixed amount of payment. You got to be worried about inflation and things like that. It's going to be a relatively low interest rate because it is guaranteed. The next level up is something called an equity indexed annuity or a fixed indexed annuity. That is also not a security. And I'm going to have more below in the additional information for this unit on equity indexed annuities and fixed annuities, because primarily what the test is going to be focusing on is variable annuities. These are a security. They are rather complicated and they do require both a securities and insurance license. The good news is they are not heavily tested on the SIE. They are likely going to be more tested on either the Series 6 or Series 7 top-off exam when you do get to that. But students are reporting that they are seeing a few questions, but not nearly as much as used to be on the pre-October Series 6. The separate account. This is where the monies are invested by the investor and are kept in investments chosen by the investor. And they can be changed. They're similar to mutual funds. In a variable product, the money cannot be kept in the general account of the insurance company. So they must be kept in a separate account. Now, when we say that they are similar to mutual funds, you do want to be careful. You don't want to tell clients just flat out that they're just like mutual funds, because they're not. They're insured mutual funds. They cost, in some cases, significantly more than mutual funds, have some of the similar benefits of mutual funds, but also some additional benefits and restrictions that mutual funds do not actually have. They're a different investment, but they're similar to mutual funds. Now, how can we fund an annuity? We understand the different ways that the annuity can be invested, but how do we actually put money in there? Well, there's two basic ways. We could just do a lump sum, one single deposit, which is going to fund the entirety of the annuity. A rollover, if you would, something like that. The other is called a periodic, where you're investing periodic. Payments are made over time and can be made on a regular basis, monthly, annually, weekly, or at random times, whenever the client wants to add money. Maybe they get a bonus once a year, maybe their birthday they add some, who knows. But it is one-side binding. Unlike life insurance, where if the client doesn't pay their periodic premium payment for life insurance, the life insurance might lapse, probably would lapse. With an annuity, if you don't make your payment, you just don't get the investment. If I don't make a payment, well, the insurance company, the investment company doesn't have to do anything. But if I do make a payment, they must credit me the units. They must credit my investment with that deposit. Makes sense. Timing of annuities. How we want to get the money. Annuities are a stream of income. We all are familiar with at least one type of annuity in the real world. There was one when this was recorded, it was about a month ago. There was a rather large annuity that people were discussing about. Whenever you hear about the lottery, when you hear about the person who in South Carolina won the $1.6 billion lottery a couple of weeks ago from the date of this recording, you also remember them talking about how that's only $980-some million lump sum. I mean, only $980-some million. I mean, gee, you can barely live on that. The difference is that $1.6 billion was an annuity. We're going to get into more of this in a little bit. It was a fixed, a period certain annuity. Only period certain. With an immediate annuity, the payment is starting immediately. That's effectively what that would have been. When they accept the annuity, they start getting payments immediately. When they do a lump sum rollover into an immediate annuity, they're immediately starting to turn it into a lump sum. Annuities have two guarantees and only two guarantees on these FINRA exams. And that is a guarantee return of premium and a monthly check you cannot outlive. The purpose of an annuity, as far as these exams are concerned, is to provide a stream of income the owner cannot outlive. In the real world, annuities can have a lot more features. They aren't tested. One of the things I advise students once they start testing in these early securities exams Stop paying attention to what you hear in the office about variable annuities. Because the variable annuities you hear in the office are good annuities. They're going to hopefully make you a lot of money, but they are not the annuities that are on these tests. And if you think about the annuities that you can't sell until you get this license, if you're learning about them and they might hurt you on these tests, you probably don't want to learn too much about them yet. You'll have plenty of time to learn about all of these annuities once you get the license. But we have an immediate annuity, as I was saying, income starting immediately. The other option, of course, is a deferred annuity, something where the income is starting later. Income is deferred, will be taken at some point in the future, at least 1 year from the initial deposit. If it starts within 1 year, that is then going to be classified as an immediate annuity. But if it's taken over or after 1 year, it's going to be a deferred annuity. And deferred annuities can be funded with a lump sum or periodically. If I am starting to immediately get income from the company, how can I periodically invest into that? What, I'm sending them $10 a month so they can send me 8? Doesn't seem to make much sense. You can't do periodic immediate annuity. The life of an annuity. There are basically 3 phases. 2 of them have names. 1 of them is basically a choice. But you have the early life of an annuity. This is when it's in the accumulation phase, when it's accumulating money. This is the time when the owner is contributing to the annuity, or at least letting it grow without taking the money out, without turning it into a stream of income. And it can last anywhere from months to many years. In the real world, most annuities you sell are never actually going to be leaving the accumulation period with all the new cool stuff we have for them. But on the test, the accumulation period is the early life, the first stage, when it's building. During that time, you're buying accumulation units. This is what is purchased during the accumulation phase. It is basically the same kind of idea as a share of a mutual fund or a share of stock. If I go and I buy 100 units or 100 shares, the number of units I have is very unlikely to change unless I deposit more money in or I take money out. But if I just buy 100 shares, the number doesn't generally change unless there's dividends and things like that. But that doesn't occur in annuities. But the value could change. Maybe I bought them when they were $10 a unit. Now they're $20 an accumulation unit, so I doubled my money. But that's the idea of accumulation units, is they're very, very much like shares, except they're in an annuity. The midlife crisis of annuities, annuitization. This is where the name comes from. This is the point where the owner changes the annuity from being a lump sum, having an account value, into just a stream of income, just a check that cannot be outlived. At annuitization, a settlement option is chosen and an AIR is set. We will be discussing both of those things in more detail. The late life of an annuity, the annuity phase. The annuity phase. This is the time when the annuity is just paying out income. Annuity or payout phase, it could be called. And it's paying it out to the owner or annuitant. At this stage, they now have annuity units. These are fixed at annuitization. Accumulation units rarely change. If I buy more or I sell some of them, the number changes. Outside of buying more or selling, the number never changes. Once they're annuity units, though, they can never change. You cannot buy annuity units. You cannot sell annuity units. You can buy and sell accumulation units, not annuity units. The number of units is set at annuitization and never changes, but the value that is paid to each could change month to month by the AIR, which we will be discussing again at the end of this unit. The settlement options. This is how the deal is made once it's annuitized. The primary thing we need to understand is all of these are going to be life period, where it is straight, where it is for the life. With straight life, it is only the life. Income payments continue for the life of the annuitant. But once the annuitant dies, the beneficiary is only going to get money if the annuitant hasn't received all of their payments back. Remember, one of the guarantees of a variable annuity is a guarantee of return of principal. If I invested $50,000 in and I start getting $2,000 a month checks and I die after a year, well, I got $24,000. 2,000 times 12, that's 24. The company still owes me $26,000. I put in 50. They've given me 24. They still owe my heirs 26. But they don't know any of the growth that might have occurred in the accumulation side. This is the most risky one, because if there's been given all the money back, the heirs get nothing. But it does have the highest monthly check. This is useful to think about with people who don't have heirs, who are looking to just get the absolute most out of their retirement assets. Life with period certain. This is where it's combining it. Remember, with the lottery, those are only period certain. Not life with period certain, just period certain. Just in the case of the 1.6 billion, I believe it was a 29-year period certain annuity. It was going to pay for 29 years. But life with period certain is the idea it's going to pay for the life or the period certain, whichever is longer. So if I get a 20-year period certain, life with periods, 20-year period certain annuity, and I annuitize it with that, and I die after 5 years, my heirs are still going to get payments for another 15 years. If I die after 25 years, well, I lived longer than I was worried I might not. It's life or the period, whichever is longer. It cannot be shorter because it will always pay for the full life of the annuitant. Life with survivorship, joint life. This is for two people. Its incomes and payments are going to continue for the life of the annuitant and another person. Payments only stop when the second one dies. Now with the period certain, the most common are going to be 5, 10, 15, 20-year period certain. The longer the period certain, the less the check is going to be. We know that straight life is the most. How to distinguish between these? Much harder. You need more information than what the test can possibly give. But know that the longer the period, the longer the actuaries believe they have to pay on the annuity, the less they're going to actually wind up paying. One of the things I talk about with my students is the reason why annuities and life insurance are generally sold by the same company. They're bets on the opposite sides of the coin. Think about a life insurance company. If a life insurance company was a living, breathing person with goals and dreams and hopes, what would a life insurance company want its policy owners to do? Does life insurance policy owners want their policy owners to die? They want them to live to be 1,000 years old. Life insurance companies want their clients still to be 1,000 years old, making their monthly payments every month of their life on time and in full. But 1,000 years is what they want. Annuities, on the other hand, again, these aren't real people, so we don't have to really worry about it. But an annuity company wants their clients to die tomorrow. The sooner their clients die, the less they have to pay. So that's why insurance companies bet on both. They have annuities and life insurance. Life insurance pays them better if people live longer than expected. Annuities pay them better if they live shorter than expected. And some people are going to live longer, some people are going to live shorter. But that basically brings us and explains why I really like this next cartoon. One of the great things about living so long is that I'm upsetting the people who are paying my annuity. Now, the assumed interest rate, I did mention as well, is set at annuitization. It is fixed. It never changes. Each month's return is compared to this AIR, to this assumed interest rate. If that month is higher than AIR, then next month's check is going to be higher. If lower, then the next month's payment is going to be lower. If it's the same, the next month's check is going to be the same. And then each of these resets, they no longer care about them after they look to figure out what next month's check is. The previous months no longer matter, only the current month. The receipt of a monthly check is guaranteed each and every month. The value of that check is what fluctuates. So let's look at our chart. We have an AIR of 4%. So as we're going through, we get $200 to start. We look at the 5%. Month one, it's 5%. Compared to AIR, we're going to see that it's higher. 5 is higher than 4. So next month's check is higher. At this point, 5 and 200 no longer matter. They are meaningless. AIR is a very dumb thing. It remembers 2 numbers at a time. That's it. So now next month's check, month 2 comes around. I got $210 in month 2. But month 2 returned 3%. We then again compare it to AIR, and we see 3 is less than 4. So next month's check is going to be lower. But then 3 and 210 no longer matter. We have our monthly check. The monthly return and the previous months no longer matter. Month 3 comes. I got $203 in month 3. Month rate at 8%. Okay, compared to AIR, 8% is more, so we got more money, $217. But then the 8 and the 203 are no longer cared about. 9% comes around. 9 compared to 4 is higher, so again we go more. But then we don't care about the 9 and the 217. We're now at 235. But now we want the 5%, and this is one of those tricks that the test might try and use with you. We had an 8, we had a 9, and now we have a 5. It's lower. So it must have gone down, right? These numbers don't ever matter. All that matters with this 5% is AIR. 5% is higher than 4%, so next month's check went up. Maybe not as much as these others, still goes up. Then the 5 and the 235 are no longer cared about. 2% compared to AIR is lower, so the check goes down. Then we don't care about these anymore. And finally, we compare the 4%, which is equal, so the final month is going to be the same rate. Oh, have some there. We no longer care about these, and that's how AIR works. You are never going to have to figure out what the number is. You're never going to have to figure out that it's 235 after an AIR of 9 or a separate account returning of 9. You're never going to have to get into that detail. You're going to have to know, is it higher, lower, or maybe between two numbers. AIR is one of those concepts. It is tricky, it is weird, but once you get it, it sort of clicks. You can almost feel it when you finally understand it, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. It's not a particularly deep concept. It's just very, very weird. So do make sure if you're tripping up on it, if you've got questions, that you reach out and ask. I do have some additional resources and different ways of trying to explain this below. As always, if you have any questions, let me know. That brings us to the end of the annuity unit. I hope you enjoyed this unit, and I will see you again shortly for the next.